In our closest relationships, we think we know our friends, our spouse, our family members. We think we know their personality, how they'll react to certain situations. And for many of us, we connect our love for them connected to this knowledge. And it's true that love is connected with knowledge. In the book of Genesis, we get that even literally when it says that Adam knew Eve. Now, Adam knew Eve is not just a euphemism for sex, but also that part of their closeness and part of that experience was a kind of a knowledge. So while love is also connected with knowledge, it's also even more connected with the unknown. And we know this mostly through romantic love. When we're first meeting somebody, the excitement, the passion, the energy comes mostly from what we don't know about the other person. We don't know how they're going to react when we take their hand for the first time. We don't know when we plan a special dinner at a jazz club how they are going to respond. And that anticipation, that unknowingness creates passion, connection, love, and that's an amazing experience. Now, after we get to know people for a while, and the romance sometimes fades. There is such a joke, say if you want to kill the energy and passion of a romance, get married. And really what's being spoken about right there is that the presence of the unknown is being lost in the relationship with the other person. What happens is we start to think we know the other, and we start to label them. Oh, so-and-so is just this way. And we begin to feel like we know the totality of their being. And what happens is we start to get bored or familiar or whatever. What we've done is we've turned them into an object in our mind. We've turned them into what the philosopher Martin Buber calls an I-it relationship. They now only exist as far as the labels that we've given them. When the truth is that our beloved or our friend is a never, ever unfolding, creative, infinite expression of themselves as they're growing into their own being in the world. So what we need to do if we want to keep that love alive is to be present to the reality that we can never, ever know the other. And we do that by being aware of the labels that we put on them. Whenever we start to say, that person never does this or always does this, never and always are good tips that we have turned the relationship in some way into an I-it. And tap back into that reality that we can never, ever know the other. Estelle Frankel, who wrote the book we're using, The Wisdom of Not Knowing, says that sometimes as we begin to become more aware of the ways in which we're different from other people in our lives, that sometimes that difference can make us feel uncomfortable and lonely. We realize that there is a gap that's actually between us and our loved one, and just by the fact that we process things differently, we do things differently. And for many of us, that gap is uncomfortable. We need to shift our perspective on that gap, to look at that gap as a place of discovery, a place of being able to be open to the mystery in the other. Estelle Frankel also comments that sometimes when our partner or our close friend or relative takes a new direction, that unknown can produce anxiety for us. Maybe our loved one has Parkinson's disease and now suddenly can't do what they can do with their bodies in the same way, and our whole life has to shift. It now revolves around hospital visits, and we're not sure where that is taking us and how we are going to connect with them. Do we look at that as a threat, or as an opportunity to discover something new about each other. Sometimes our loved one may take a direction in their lives, that be called to a new job or a new interest that doesn't include us, and that can provoke anxiety. And instead we have the opportunity to shift our perspective and be able to look at their new direction as something that can teach us and something that we can discover about them and ourselves. In friendship, as well as committed spousal relationships, it's so important that we look for the soul of the other person. That we realize that our friend is not there just for affirmation of ourselves in our own life, but that they have an infinite wise presence that can actually have something to teach us. What would it be like to come to our friendships or our marriage with the attitude, what can you show me and teach me? And really be in this open place to be able to be touched by the soul of the other. So as we move forward, I bless us that we can be very aware of the ways in which we cut off the mystery in our relationships and instead let the unknown awaken new love and new passion.